Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
And welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Jay and David. What's up, gentlemen?
Hey, David's back.
Hi. Rotating in again. Happy to be here.
Tag, you're it.
Yep, you're it.
Yeah, it's good to have you, man. I always miss you when you're gone, and I'm glad when you're back, and so it's good.
Well, thank you, Jay. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to come on and talk about all these tournaments that are going on, Team League, etc.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is going to be a very tournament-heavy episode. We're gonna talk about Yavin Base Team League because, of course, David runs Yavin Base Team League. So there's no better person, no better authority on that than what we have here. And then also we are going to talk about PAX Unplugged and New Orleans Open, both of which happened this past weekend at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually the first time in recent memory I can think of that we've had, at least in the United States, two tournaments in the same weekend. Two like convention style tournaments in the same weekend anyway.
Yeah, it's really ramping up, it seems.
Yeah.
So,
it's great.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem to split things too badly. I was a little bit afraid of that, but apparently they were both very well attended and they both attracted, different parts of the country, and it didn't split anything at all. In fact, it was just brilliant to have both events in the same weekend.
Well, I think location-wise, they were both in really good spots, right? Like the New Orleans one, you could get like a lot of the Southern people in there relatively easily, and then being in Philadelphia, all the Northeastern people could get in there, relatively easily. So I think it just seemed like a good split.
And no shortage of people that want to go to a big event like this.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's good for the community.
They both got about 24-ish players, somewhere in there, mid-20s. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay. So maybe like a little more than half the size of some of the other, like SoCal and Lone Star and stuff like that.
Yeah, half of SoCal, because I think SoCal was like 46.
Yeah, somewhere in there. But still a very good turnout, especially for 2 in 1 weekend. So, all right, we'll get to those in a few minutes. But first, Jay, you got any housekeeping for us?
Of course, always. So first and foremost, if you like the podcast, if you like the blogs, if you like the Fifth Trooper podcast, or any of the other media that we put out, support us on Patreon. We try to put people on and pay them to write for us and talk for us. And so you can help us do that by supporting us on Patreon. You also get another podcast, which is the After Dark podcast. And actually this week, Dustin from Jagged Brush is going to be joining me on the After Dark podcast. And we're going to deep dive into hobby and painting and airbrushing. And as Kyle knows, I've been knee deep in airbrushing. And I'm really excited about it. So Dustin and I are gonna talk about it on the After Dark podcast. We talk a lot of inside baseball, like what's going on with Stormtide, what's going on with Fifth Trooper, So there's just a lot more you get for listening to us. Plus we have like quarterly and yearly rewards for being on Patreon. It's just all around a benefit to you and to us, So it's really, really cool. So if you want to support us, even at like $1, you can do that, and it would be much appreciated and helps us put out content. So, and then second, Stormtide, if you haven't had a chance, we have that narrative campaign, that's monthly campaign going strong. We are on, this is box 5 coming out this month, and it is ramping up. We've introduced monsters into Stormtide, and they are pretty insane. And I can tell you they're only going to get more insane. So, if you haven't had a chance, you can go to the stormtide.thefifthtrooper.com and sign up. And also we have a channel on the Discord. So if you want to like ask people how it is or get other people's feedback on Stormtide, you can go on there and do it. So yeah, that's the Legion Discord, by the way. So I think that's it for housekeeping.
You want to plug anything real quick, David?
Sure. Yavin Base Team League is happening. We're going to be doing some streams pretty soon. But before we get too much into the team league, Invader League finals are coming up, and that's going to be on December 18th at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can tune into twitch.tv/Yavin Base to watch that and have it casted for you. It's going to be a really fun evening of one game, not games. A really fun evening is what I'm trying to say.
Of game, singular,
of singular game. It's going to be a singular game. It's going to be a really important game because I've always felt that Invader League is the right now is like the pinnacle of like competition. It's a worldwide tournament, hundreds of people. To have two people come out of that very large field and play each other for the final match is like, you should definitely pay attention to this, because this is one of the biggest crucibles, I should say, for players to play the game.
Yeah, and for me, if you may not be that interested in Invader League, and if you're not, what I would do is go watch the stream just to listen to David and the commentators break down games, because you're just going to learn so much about Legion just from their commentary on the game and watching top level players play as well. So if you want to look at it from that angle, right? If you're like,
yeah,
I don't know what Invader League is, I don't care, but
yeah, I may not care. Yeah.
If you want to learn, more about competitive Legion, watching it and listening to people commentate about it is always that's been my biggest thing, between listening to you guys talk while I'm podcasting with you or watching your stream, David, or something. That's where I've learned the most about Legion. So
right. Well, while we do like play-by-play, there's plenty of time that we have to fill, and a lot of the time that we fill in these games, we do either like speculative commentary, like what if you did this move, what does this mean for that unit, lots of like process stuff. Why is this move strong? What did he accomplish? We go into that a lot. And so if that's the sort of thing that you're looking for, is like, sort of it's not strictly like a how-to guide, but it's pretty close. And we try to make it as educational as possible. Entertaining, of course, also, but educational is definitely something that I'm interested in teaching people how to be better at the game, raising the level of competition. Yep. That's definitely something I'm interested in doing as a caster.
Yeah, and I always go back after I have a game streamed and watch back the VOD, just to see if the commentators or the chat or anybody sort of caught something that I missed, or a mistake that I made, or had some better way that I could have done something. So
we don't usually do that. You're pretty good. I just have to say, sometimes you surprise us, which is always what we want. We want the players to surprise us.
Yeah, well, there's always something to be learned from every game, whether you're spectating in it or playing in it. So
yeah, it turns out Rex fire supporting melee Wookiees is pretty damn good.
Yeah, you got to get there though with the Wookiees for that to happen. Which did not happen in my top 8 game. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that'll be the Invader final. I think we briefly mentioned this last week, but it will be Florf the Dwarf versus Snyder. Snyder, of course, played in the SoCal final.
D Snyder, the one.
D Snyder, yes. He's running Dooku and Magnagard, and then Florf is running old style Rex Star with like a ranged Wookiee kind of sprinkled in there.
Right. Instead of a full ARC trooper.
Yeah, this is under the old points. So I think Florf's list is now like 830 points or something like that.
Yeah. It's grossly over the point total under the new system. So you're gonna get to see a little bit of the bad old days. When Rex was dominant.
Yeah, last March of the Rex Star. This could be, incidentally, the 3rd Invader League in a row, potentially, that is won by Rex Star.
So. Purely on timing, just because they couldn't get the rules reference guide out before the Invader final. But that's not, they're not, what is it? The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, often in these situations.
Well, I think it's nice, if you're out there thinking to yourself, I don't know about these rules. This is a great game to watch and remember why there's new rules. So
Yeah, you're gonna see why clones only share one token in all probability.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, or go back and watch any of the Floor's other Elims games too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason we called it the leaf blower.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly. The leaves being your models.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the leaf blower being a Z6 with 5 aims and huge numbers of surges.
Yeah, exactly. 5 aims. That's like low.
Yeah,
It's like
five
that's
is
modest.
low.
He was
It's
being
modest.
That's the
kind.
floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he spent aims elsewhere in the turn.
Right. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah. We're going to talk about the 2 tournaments that happened last weekend, of course, which is, I guess these are the first 2 like convention style tournaments that have had the new points in errata.
Yes.
At least in the US, there was the French Open, I think, which happened 3 weeks ago.
I think there was,
like that.
wasn't there another French tournament this weekend too?
There was another French tournament this
Yes,
weekend.
there
Yeah.
was.
So yeah, if I don't have any details on that at the moment, if we have any French listeners or any other European folks that went to that tournament and you got some updates for us or details for us, please let us know and we'll report on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I only know the list that won, and the list that won was Vader. It was a 9 activation Vader dues.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yep.
That's
Not
the list that
surprising.
won.
And then the other thing with these tournaments is they are in the US, but everything that is available internationally is available at these tournaments. So they were allowing Yoda and Wookiees to be, you could just print off the card or something and bring it.
That was true of PAX.
PAX.
I do not think that New Orleans Open did that.
Okay.
I think New Orleans Open just used street dates, like the normal street date.
Gotcha. Okay.
So why don't we let's hit those first since we're already talking about them, and then we can close out with Team League. How's that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So PAX.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna go over just the top 4 from these because these were like a little bit smaller than sort of the other. Often we talk about top 8, but these are 24 roughly person tournaments. So we're just going to talk about the top 4. So if you're number 5 or 6 or 7, I'm sorry. People can see the full lists on that on TTO. The links are on the Discord, and you can probably just search for them on TTO also.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hit PAX first. So Evan went to PAX, as you I think mentioned already, Jay. So if you want like a full in-person PAX experience, listen to the Fifth Trooper podcast this week.
Yep. So it's by the time you hear this, by the time we're recording it, the podcast already came out. So you can get Evan's full report on PAX and how it was in the tournament and the tables and all that. So
so the winner of PAX was Mike Gem with the Padme Yoda Saber 8 activation nonsense.
Yeah.
This has been seen in I think at least one European tournament, and then also in Invader League. Who Kicked My Dog played it in Elims and almost knocked me out with it. Should have knocked me out with it.
Yeah, so this whole thing got started kind of in Bremen, I think, was the tournament that it first appeared, this monster list, and it was like 5-1, I think, only losing to another Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got imported to America, and now it has 1 PAX.
So you have played a slightly different version of this list more recently, David. Do you want to talk about like what this list is and how it works, just the general concept?
Yeah. So basically, the rub here is that you have a tank, okay, and this tank has a very strong attack pool with the twin laser turret. It's like 9 dice or something, and you've got an exemplar in the list with Padme who can feed it tokens, and then you've got in my version, Anakin, who is a second exemplar after his 3-pip. Or in Mike Gem's version, you have Yoda, which is what I would call him like pseudo exemplar. Because Yoda, every time Yoda plays the 3-pip, he can feed tokens. But most importantly, Yoda can use guidance to give Padme another standby. So really what it comes down to is you've got a tank sitting in the middle that sees everything relevant, and you've got Padme and Yoda feeding it standby tokens. And so essentially what happens is if your opponent wants to win the game, they have to walk into your standby tank. And every time they take an action within range 2 of the tank, in the front arc of the tank, they're risking being shot again. And it's not just the standby sharing. It's also that, Yoda on the 3-pip has 2 aims. Padme has an aim. The tank probably has an aim from link targeting array. It's really, really foul what you have to do against this thing.
Oh, the dodges.
Yeah, and then we have to talk about the other half of the combo, which is not only do you have an armored tank, it's armor with red save that is being fed surges from Padme potentially and from Yoda. That is also an outmaneuver tank, which means it can dodge crits, who is also getting fed 2 dodges from Padme, from Yoda, that also has R2-D2 who can repair it, that also has 3 clones in orbit of it, like just generic clone squads, that have face-up tokens on Yoda's 3-pip turn that can fire support it. So you've got just a boat full of these really strong rules that just combine into this monster. It's like Voltron, like the various parts of the body come together to create this super beast,
And then Evan was saying that Mike actually put Plo Koon on the saber as well. So that gives you free turn for the end of your activation. You get agile too if you move.
Yeah, so when you move into position, because usually the saber has to move once or twice to do the thing in the center that it wants to do, you get 2 free dodges just for moving. Which is like fantastic. And like on the turn that I, want to recover, I probably can just recover Plo Koon and shoot and still have a hugely modified shot because I already took an aim from the targeting array. You've just got a lot of play there, and the saber is really hard to kill. You're never gonna plink this thing like you used to with like ARC troopers. For example, like if ARCs still had critical, they would be completely useless against this. Yep. And like any sniper crit is useless because unless it's like high velocity. But even then, you've got R2-D2. And the thing's got 9 health. It's not like you're going to chop through it with 2 snipers. No way.
Dude, it's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Basically, like you have to one-shot it with Son of Skywalker or something, and that's pretty much that's the way that you would kill it.
Right, but it's like sitting there laughing at you, like if you can get here through my standbys.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like sometimes you'll be in a board state where the flanks are protected. So like you'll have you want to put the saber in between 2 big pieces of line of sight blocking terrain so your flanks are protected, and so that your standby sharing pieces are also protected. So you just create a castle with this thing, and you can even be red player. As long as the objective is in the center, you're feeling pretty good about your life. And especially if you're red too, because you got to pick that board edge too now. Yeah. So you're feeling great as red player.
Yeah, and that plays into like the heavy strategy, right? Because when I play double ATST or when I play a heavy, I want objectives in the center because I'm just like, yeah, okay, come get it, right? And this is just like that on overdrive.
Yep.
So
I can now shoot like three times or something like that because you tried to do something in front of my tank. How dare you?
Yeah, there are ways to do it 4 times in a turn. I think on Yoda's 1-pip turn.
Yeah, because Yoda can do guidance multiple times.
Right.
on that turn, he can like guidance a standby onto Padme, take
Force
a standby himself. You could even is guidance only troopers?
Guidance is only troopers.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he can't guidance the tank itself, but he can still guidance. You can guidance standbys if the timing is right.
Yeah, I think it's if Padme already has a standby, you can open the turn with a force push to trigger that standby. Guidance to put a second standby on there. Recover your force push again to trigger that second standby, and then of course the tank gets like its normal attack. There's a way to do it 4 times.
Yeah, so Evan had said he was like getting hammered by this thing, and then all of a sudden Mike did it 4 times, like shot 4 times at him, and like force pulled his Wookiees into I don't know. He did a bunch of crazy stuff, and Evan was just like, "All right, well, I guess that's it then."
Yeah,
this is the first unit in Legion where it's like the interactions are complicated enough or this is the first list I've ever encountered in Legion where the interactions are complicated enough that if you're not careful, your opponent could like screw something up and cheat without meaning to, because you got to track all that stuff yourself to protect yourself.
And it's one of those things too where like we've joked in this podcast in the past about like how if you have to spend 10 minutes explaining to your opponent like how you're murdering them, like that's not a good feeling. It doesn't. It almost doesn't matter like how balanced something is if you have to spend like multiple minutes being like, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this, and this is why that works, and then I'm going to do this, and then all your stuff dies. You know what unit
we said that about? We said that about Tauntauns.
Yep.
That's the unit we said that about.
Yep.
You know what unit got nerfed?
Tauntauns.
Yep.
Yep.
Maybe there's a pattern here.
But I mean, clearly, so it's not without weaknesses. It's only 8 activations, but usually, the best way to like mitigate an activation disadvantage is standbys.
So it just plays into that. So and like the best way to and like try killing it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's timing neutral because like okay, so you shoot it 3 times at the end of the turn and do like 3 damage to it maybe. If you can plow through all the dodges, and then R2 repairs it, and then
the best way to defeat it, I think, is to hope your opponent screws up their Padme positioning and see if you can just kill Padme.
Yeah, if you can kill Padme with something, then it does fall apart pretty quickly.
Yeah, and never let your opponent play a center objective if you can help it. Force them to move if at all possible. Don't let them castle up, and even like Vaporators. As red, they hate it, but at the same time, they can still destroy you if you don't hide your Vaps really well.
Yeah, it depends on where they are. Like if you're forced to put a Vap in a pseudo exposed position, they can just kind of charge at it with the tank and be like, "All right, come fix this Vap."
Yeah, come fix this Vap, and I'll just be sitting here, with 9 dice with lots of aims, and if anything survives, well, good luck. That was just good luck.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a monster. It's a monster.
But I think it's one of those things that sounds complicated enough that you're not going to see a ton of it, if I had to guess, because it's just there's a lot going on, and not. I think as competitive as we can be, not everybody is like wants to like read a novel just to like to play at a tournament. So
I think far and away it's the best Republic list right now.
I think I agree with you. Yeah. But yes, to your point, Jay, it is a complex list to run. Yeah. It's not something you can just pick up and kind of like know what it does and how everything interacts with each other. So
plus your Saber is killable. I've seen the Saber die.
Yeah, but then you still have Yoda. So
right. So
well, that's you said earlier, you're like, yeah, go ahead, kill the Saber. And I'm like, there's still a whole army. You still and one of them's a force user.
Yeah. That's why I play something similar to this. There's just Anakin Padme because I just like Anakin fire supports.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like you should just play Yoda, dude.
Yeah. I like to like with the potential of the 2 secret missions as well. Like there's a lot going on that as an opponent you have to be prepared for and pay attention to. So it's not only is it complex for the person piloting it, but it's also complex for your opponent to like prepare for it, because sure, you could prepare for all the Saber shenanigans, but then maybe you left an opening for secret mission, and then all of a sudden he's scoring 1 to 2 VP, because you were too busy paying attention to what the Saber and Yoda were doing.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm not saying it's like a given, but I'm just, I think there's opportunity there, but man, complex.
Very.
Yep, very much. So that was the winning list. That was I think it was 4-0. I think it was just a straight 4-round Swiss. I don't think they did a cut or anything like that. And then there were a handful of 3-1s here. So the second place list was John Prosser with Operative Vader, triple dewbacks, double IRG.
Nice.
Plus some other stuff that gets it up to 10 activations somehow.
Nice.
Some a melee skew playing into the Padme Yoda saber is just you're feeling pretty sad.
Yep. But against just about anything else, you're feeling pretty happy.
Absolutely, yeah. That thing would absolutely rack a traditional gun line, and I mean, most things are probably going to succumb to triple dewbacks and Operative Vader. And were the IRG, were they electro staffing?
Yeah, those were full IRG.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yes, that all fits. That's the thing.
I love Empires so much.
Gross.
Yeah.
Wait until you see one of the New Orleans Open lists.
Right.
All right. So that was second. Third was Mike Cirillo with Kraken, Magna Guard, and Spiders.
Yeah, definitely something we expected to see, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, basically a droid gun line with some Magna Guard in there for line backing purposes.
Yeah, and that's Mike's kind of specialty. He was doing the Krennic Bosk stuff the 2 LVOs ago or LVO ago. I don't even know. Whenever we were at LVO last, all of us.
It's interesting that he picked Kraken.
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah,
it was 2 years ago exactly.
Yeah,
I was going to say it's interesting you picked Kraken though.
I like Kraken even in situations where you're not like specifically using override, just because its attack profile is so much better than the other two.
Does he sharpshooter too?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like Kalani.
And he does, unlike Kalani. I think Kalani has lethal. He has actual pierce, like straight up pierce on his sharpshooter 2 gun. So
whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
Wow, he's a baller.
Yeah, Kraken's a beast.
Yeah. And then the 4 red in melee. So
yeah,
which in a melee meta like we have. All right, and then the 4th place list was John Lopez with Padme, clones, and Wookiees.
Oh,
were the clones? Did they have heavy weapons or no?
A couple of them did.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 of them had heavies.
Were the Wookiees ranged?
No, I think let me double check. I think they were melee Wookiees.
Yeah, I'm curious about because there's a couple of modes that Padme Wookiees is being run in right now. There's like the standby Overwatch version, and then there's the melee skew like double tap version.
They were normal Wookiees with bowcasters, offensive push, and tenacity. So right. the fully loaded melee Wookiees.
Okay, so it was a melee skew.
Yeah, but he did have several clones with heavy weapons, as well as Padme and a clone commander. So
nice.
Yep.
I like that list a lot. I like that style.
Yeah, it's very solid.
I'm surprised no chieftain though.
No chieftain. I mean, you can only fit. I'm surprised he fit as much as he did.
Yeah.
So he's also got 5s in here. So he's actually he's got 3 clone heavy weapons, one of which is 5s, and then 3 fully loaded Wookiees, Padme, and a clone commander.
Okay.
9 activations.
Not bad.
Yep. Yeah, I like it. I dig it. So 2 Republic lists in the top 4. One of which had clones with heavy weapons in it. So
yeah,
no
so
Rex,
maybe there's
no
hope.
Rex, but the faction maybe still have poor internal balance in a different way, but clearly there are still ways to be successful with Republic.
Paying the heaviest core tax out of all the factions.
Yep. All right, and then New Orleans Open.
Let's talk about NOLA.
I think this was also straight Swiss without a cut. It was just like maybe 5 rounds instead of 4. 5 rounds because the first place list was 5-0. So And that was Gus Smith with an operative Vader gun line.
Love it.
What style of guns did he include?
I think it was a mix of let me bring it up here. Like a mix of storms with heavies and shores.
Okay, so he didn't go like straight up shores.
No, which I don't think you can really do in a Vader gun line, because Vader just doesn't have the face ups to support like a large quantity of shores.
Right, because they don't get the target face ups.
Right, which is what you need for shores
to really make them shine. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. He's got Krennic. He's got operative Vader with choke, push, seize, and tenacity. He's got 2 shores with T-21B. He's got 2 storms with DLT, and then he's got 2 mortars. And he also has Death Troopers, 1 unit of Death Troopers, and then 1 unit of Scout Strikes. Sorry.
Do the DTs have a comm relay?
Yeah. They do not, which is a little odd to me. I mean, maybe he just couldn't fit it. But that's kind of a huge benefit of the DTs in a unit with, or I'm sorry, in a list with shores, is you get a free face up every turn that you can potentially trigger a target with. It's right at 800 points, so he might have just not had points for it. I might have cut C's for that. I don't know.
Maybe he figures that if Vader is going to have the order anyway, so the DTs is just a bonus. It's not like a staple of the list.
Yeah.
Because you're usually playing mostly Vader, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean,
in command cards.
Right, you are. And this list is really all about just supporting Vader, or just letting Vader do his thing. Florf, aka Zach, other way around, Zach, aka Florf. I posted, they essentially played in the final, and Florf was playing a more straight up like Krennic Death Trooper gun line. And he said basically Vader just got in and killed everything by himself.
Yep.
Which is what Vader does.
Yep.
That's what he does.
So, yep.
So we're not quite in the realm of, what do you call it, of just everything gets stiff armed, because that was sort of the problem with melee before, was that you would end up in some deployments where you just get stiff armed by your opponent's like long range guns, and it's like, how can I get in? I can't get in. But now it's like you can actually do that, and once you get in, good luck.
Yeah, especially against Vader, whose whole kit is basically tailor made for him to be just like stuck in the middle of the enemy army and become a lightsaber blender.
Yep, Vader's might, force push.
Yeah, Fear and Dead Men,
Implacable, all those cards. Those cards are just like, if I can get Vader to a certain position on the board, I'm like unstoppable.
Yep, exactly. That's what he does. Always seen Vader, ironically against Death Troopers this time. But,
yeah. Krennic definitely choked on his aspirations.
Yep. So the second place ranked list was John Bushman, our own John Bushfax Bushman.
Yeah.
I think they actually used the MOV for this tournament.
They did.
Instead of strength of schedule or like a cut elimination style. So even though the winner of the Zach and Gus Smith game would have been, whoever won that was essentially undefeated. The rankings shake out based on MOV and not like how far you made it without being undefeated or whatever. And he was running Han and Operative Luke. Let me see what else he was running, because that's all I have written down is Han and Operative Luke, and I don't want to short our own Bushfax Bushman.
Yeah, and I want to know what the rest of the list was.
Yeah. I'm pulling it. All right. Yeah, Han, Luke, Chewie, 2 Rebel Troopers with DLTs, a Rebel Veteran, a Mark II, and 3 Sniper Strikes.
Yeah, that sounds like an Operative Luke gun line.
Yeah.
Not much of a gun line. It's only 2 DLTs, but it's enough, right? Sometimes it can be enough, and sometimes it seems particularly well positioned against what was in the top at this event, because a triple strike team is really, really good against those Imperial guns.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I mean, he
and Han, once he gets in there, just starts picking up red saves.
Oh yeah, Han's like, give me those stormtroopers, man. I'm gonna make a head collection.
Yep,
He really loves it.
totally.
It's really interesting too because it's like I guess, was it? I don't know if we can blame the release schedule on this shakeout because I know that separatists were like 8th or something, and clones were like virtually non-existent. So is it just like? Do you think it's like a regional thing that because these lists kind of seem like a little throwbacky, like you wouldn't necessarily play this and going to a large event. You wouldn't necessarily pick Han Op Luke 2 DLT, because you think, oh, I'm just going to face Wookiees and get smashed.
So I think everything was legal for this tournament except for Yoda and Wookiees. People ran Magna Guards.
Wow.
So, yeah, I don't know. If you were at New Orleans Open and you have some more insight on the interesting, apparently there was like no armor, but everybody prepared for armor. Was sort of one interesting thing.
I wonder because knowing that the spider droids were going to be available, if like people are like, well, that's dead now, and didn't even bother.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Fluttercraft, Jay. It's like I have 2 Fluttercrafts on my chair back here that I'm not building because it's like, dang it, I'm just gonna face dwarf spiders.
Yeah.
They're just gonna shred me.
Yeah, there were somebody posted lots of spiders and Vader. So
yeah, I mean, if you want something that's anti-armor, there's the 2 things that'll
Operative Luke, Operative Vader.
Yeah.
Both exceptionally good against armor.
Yeah.
Maybe you have Operative Luke with saber throw being fire supported by a Mark II. There's lots of good things you can do.
Yep. All right, so that was Mr. Bushman, and then third was Zach, aka Florf, and he was running basically Krennic, Triple Death Trooper, and then a bunch of shores. It's basically a Krennic shoreline with 3 Death Troopers instead of like 1 or 2, because now you can afford that.
I love it.
Yeah, props to them for running that because DTs need a little more table time.
They do. I think other than running into the Vader blunder, I actually think this list is a great meta call, because people have been mostly cutting snipers and other long-ranged Pierce, and in a world where there's not many snipers, it's really hard to kill Death Troopers.
Yeah,
killing Death Troopers with anything short-ranged or even just like long-ranged guns that don't have Pierce is like, yeah.
It's such a weird shakeout because it's like, Flor's like, okay, I'm gonna bring, everybody's running A, so I'm gonna bring B, and then like you got John who's running like list E over here.
Yeah,
but E happens to be really, really good against B.
Yeah.
So it's just like a weird shakeout,
Yeah. And it was Gus with Vader that ultimately was Flor's only loss.
Right.
All right, so that is the third list, and then fourth is I have to bring up this full list because the shorthand description here is not going to do it justice. Here's my shorthand description. Bosk Sabs double ATST.
What?
And this was Scott Combs.
So happy.
Yeah. Yeah, this one, I saw this one and I instantly thought of you, Jay. So we got Bosk naked.
Yeah.
Shame that he couldn't find elite points for Hunter there, but and then 2 Snows with R4 astromech droids, 1 naked Snow. So the core in this list is 3 Snows. And then he's got 2 strike teams with the Sonic Charge, Sabs, and Duck and Cover.
Yeah.
He's got an E-Web, CJ.
Yeah.
An E-Web.
With the barrage generator. And then he's got 2 ATSTs, one with Weiss and the full shebang on the hard points, and then the other with the Hammer's pilot and the grenade launcher, and both have link targeting array.
What an amazing world we live in.
I would love to see that list against the Yoda Saber, because I just want to see, like, it's like, well, I don't have to walk into your standby.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, stay range 3 and pound impact.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Dodge. Why don't you dodge 15 crits?
Right.
you know, like.
Right. I'm rolling impact 4 over here every time I shoot.
Oh, you dodge
Bosk.
Yeah, you dodge crits. It's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I got so many crits.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, like, you want to turtle the middle. Well, my saboteurs have already gotten there, and they've already, because I got scout 3 now. And you want to shoot my sab, well, I cancel 3 hits anyway. So,
oh my god,
it's pretty good. It's
I
pretty
could see
good.
that being interesting.
I think, I said this on the Fifth Trooper podcast with Evan. I think we're in this like fantasy land right now in the game where you can be successful with insane lists, because things are so good now that like that list that, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago would have made no sense point wise, number one. But like, if you had brought that list, you would have gotten it demolished. But now it's like, I don't know, it just feels like the Wild West, and like anything is possible. And I feel like the more insane your list is, and I think the Padme Yoda Saber one is in this ilk, is that the more insane your list is, the more unprepared your opponents are, the more likely you are to win. Because how do you prepare for that? Like, how do you prepare for a boss double ATST saboteurs E-web, like snow troopers? Like you never are going to think to prepare for that.
Yeah, no one is thinking about, in that vein, right? No one's thinking about triple DT shores.
No,
no one.
No
one.
Oh, I love it so much.
There's a lot of value in that surprise factor.
Yeah.
We used to talk about Palpatine, this being one of his strengths, because he's not played frequently. And even when he was back in the day, when he was like, quote unquote, like top meta choice, he won LVO and Nova Open basically within like 6 months of each other. Even back then, like nobody played Palpatine. So, you would roll up to a table with Palpatine and throw like give into your anger down or something, and your opponent would be like, okay, so what happens now? And if they have to answer that question, like they're already in trouble.
They're in big trouble.
So it's the same thing with like, the lists like the Padme Yoda Saber, where if you don't know intricately how that list works, you're just going to get blindsided by some ridiculous wombo combo, and then you're going to be like, oh, I guess I lose. All right.
Yep. Yeah. That's basically what Evan was feeling real good. So Evan had gone 3-0, and then he had to play Mike for his 4th game. And he goes, I'd never seen anything like it in my whole life. And he goes, and I'm like, I feel like I keep up on this. And I was like, yeah, man, it's rough. And he's like,
yep.
Because he had melee Wookiees and flutters, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're just your flutters can't do much.
No.
Wookiees, you're just gonna get standby to death.
Yeah.
I actually think, like, depending on what the board setup and everything, the flutters, I think he had bowcasters on his flutters.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they could, conceivably like get some flanking shots with Impact 2 and Pierce.
Right.
So if you can catch it without dodges, potentially you could do some real damage, especially if he's got some other bowcasters. Bowcasters being one of the few, if not only, ranged options that have both Pierce and Impact on the same gun.
Yeah, he said he thought at one point he was gonna, and you guys, for the listeners, they can listen to the other podcast, but like at one point he started putting hits in the saber. He's like, oh yeah, and then R2 just came over and he was like, oh no. And so it was just, he said it was awfully demoralizing, and then it shot him 4 times.
Yep.
Sorry, Evan.
He felt so good. I mean, wouldn't you? Like, if you brought Chewie 3 naked phase 1s, 3 Wookiees, and 3 Fluttercraft, and you were 3-0.
You're like, I can deal with armor.
Yeah, you're like, I got
no problem.
This. I got this.
It's like,
And then-
vigilance, what? Outmaneuver?
yeah, and then you get stuck on Long March with like the saber tank in between two line of sight blocking things that Padme and Yoda are behind. It's like, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, blah.
Yep. Rip.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yep.
It's not undefeatable, but it's looking pretty strong. No, I think you're right, Jay. I want to go back to your point about innovation.
Yeah.
Because I think we are in a little bit of an era right now where it's like if you innovate, you can have success. And I definitely think like Boss Sab's WTST is very innovative. Like no one's prepping for that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and it's like how many games and I don't, out there in the world where you can go to a tournament and have no idea what you're going to face. Like you have some good guesses, like you'd be like, all right, there may be some spider droids and there probably is going to be some heavies, and then no one brings heavies and just brings, insane stuff. It's weird. It's a weird world.
I'm always surprised when I show up to a tournament. I don't know if that's a good thing. I'm always a little bit surprised.
But it's not like the old days of like the short, Boss Krennic shoreline tauntauns. Like you knew what, and you could prepare for that stuff, right? Like the last LVO when I brought double heavy to that, like that was an absolute counter to all of that stuff, But now it's like I don't even know what to counter.
Yeah, what do I even run?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is great. It's good that the game is wide enough.
Yep.
Because it's less what do you call it? Less rock paper scissors.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to that old thing I've always said, where I always thought this game was like this, but now more than ever, if you know your list and you're a good pilot at your list, that you have just as good of a chance as anyone else to win now.
Yeah, I think that can be true. Yeah,
I think that's kind of always been true, but now in sort of an unsettled meta, I think it's probably more true than it has been at previous times in the past. There were times, as you noted, like if you were playing Rebels and you weren't playing Tauntauns, you were sort of viewed as like actively handicapping yourself.
Right.
I don't think that's true now necessarily, where if you're taking any given list, somebody could look at it and be like, dude, what are you doing? You should just be playing this thing instead.
Yeah.
I think there was like a brief moment where people were like, if you're not taking airspeeders, you're handicapping yourself. But that was a very brief moment. That was like about a month.
They're still so good.
They are.
They are.
Well, and even, talking about metas being settled, airspeeders and Wookiees have been in their current buff state for more than a year. And like nobody combined them until a month ago.
Yeah.
So there's obviously room to go in terms of, what's in the game.
Yeah.
Well, and I think because as new stuff comes out, right, we get distracted and like I would say even with some of the points adjustments and stuff, the truck, the AA5 speeder truck is still good. It's just we're doing a bunch of other stuff now, like right. So like I'd be surprised to see somebody, or I wouldn't be surprised to see like the next tournament to see somebody with one of those trucks, the party bus, taking a top 4 spot, because I think it's still relevant, especially in today's melee heavy world. Like it's still very relevant. We're just, people are distracted by other stuff.
Yeah. Like I've been on a gar kick for ages now.
Yeah. So
ever since the changes.
Yeah, me too.
See, isn't that funny?
Yeah,
all the changes put me even deeper into Empire.
Look who it is.
It's Anakin.
I actually put them together.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
that's a phase 1 clone box back there.
Oh yeah. I also see a lap back there.
It's accumulating. Yeah, I mean it's still in the box though.
Yeah.
You're telling me you're not going to get a second one and run JJ's 7 activation Anakin double lat?
No, if I get a clone heavy, it will be the saber tank.
Yeah, amen to that. I still have a saber tank on my shelf behind me. It's unbuilt. It's currently not in Vision because it's on top of 2 lat boxes.
Yeah, I've been enjoying Anakin a lot.
He's really fun now.
He is. Yeah, this is really where the fun begins this time, actually.
Yeah, the changes made him. The changes made him real good. I played him a lot pre-changes because I wanted him to be good. But
Yeah.
I think now that the changes are in, he's actually like, yeah, this guy can work.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
other than Padme, whether clones have the pieces to actually support him properly, I think is debatable. But
Yeah, definitely. That's been my constant struggle building lists with him. It's like, what actually supports this? And so I was like, should I just run it with Wookiees? Should I run it with a saber tank? Should I run it with other things? There's lots. I think it's one of those. I don't think it's more clones.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's really more clones.
So based on this conversation that we're having today, based on the 2 tournament top 4s we just saw, would you guys say that the points and the erratas was a net positive overall?
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, especially Empire were the big winners.
Yeah.
110%. They. I'm going to put it as massive air quotes. Needed a fix because I don't know if they actually needed it, but they got their fixes and
Yeah.
they got a huge buff to Operative Vader.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that we're now seeing 2 Operative Vader lists, number 1 and number 2, I think it's pretty clear that he got a really, really good a good shake out of this.
But and I'd like to, it's interesting too, though, is based on all the tournaments we've seen, that have played with him and his new rules. Like I feel like it was an even distribution because I'm not looking at this going, we're not seeing Vader. We're seeing a couple, sprinkles of Vader, sprinkles of saber tank, sprinkle of the, you know what I mean? Nothing is like just complete like tauntauns were, right? Nothing's just taking over.
Something our game, like if you look at our game compared to a lot of other games, our community is still like relatively small, and we also don't get a lot of what I would call iterating done. Like we don't have like think tanks of like 50 people who are like trying to crack the game. Yeah. Our think tanks are only like maybe like 5 at most, maybe more than that.
Well, and I think this, and I'm going to tie this back to, so when we were doing the Fifth Trooper podcast and it was only Legion, and then we switched it over to like a gaming podcast, right? We saw a drop in our listenership. And at the time, what I didn't realize, but what I've come to realize is that I think most, let's say 80% of Star Wars Legion players aren't actually gamers, hardcore gamers. They're Star Wars fans who are playing this tabletop game, right? Yep. And so what, like to go back to what you were saying about the think tank thing, is that we don't have that because a majority of the people aren't gamers. They're just here to enjoy Star Wars and to play on the table. Whereas these other games like 40K, they're gamers first, and then and then fans of the lore of 40K second. I don't think anybody goes, I really like the lore of 40K. I'm going to think about playing this game now.
Yeah,
I really like the lore of 40K.
But is it chicken or the egg, right? Like, do you like it because you've been playing for so long, or did you?
I have no idea.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I think for Star Wars, I think the lore is the chicken, and the egg is Legion.
Yeah,
I think that's definitely the case.
Yep, for sure.
And like, if you're a competitive Legion player, like you're like in some tiny, you're like in a quintile of a quintile. You're in some very small circle.
So this is, I don't know, maybe this is a hot take, but would you say that Kyle, you're probably one of the most competitive Legion players I know anyways. Do you feel like you're as competitive at this as most people are at 40K? Like the way you think about the way you're approaching it, or is it more fun first, competitive second? Like I don't know. I'm just asking.
Oh, it's definitely competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I don't know that I'd separate those two things for me, because I get a lot of fun and enjoyment out of the competitive element.
I think we talked about this before.
Yeah. That is what's fun for me. But I also think 40K is just a larger community. I think you probably have a similar I spent 20 years playing 40K also. You have a pretty similar distribution of, you have like a an X% of players that kind of like focus really hard on the tournament scene and the competitive element. And those are the players that are trying to crack the game, to crack the code. The ones that show up to all the tournaments, and then you have a bunch of people that just buy models and play in their local store. I think that's also true of 40K. It just feels larger in 40K because 40K is a larger, more popular game. So I don't know that I would say that those two things are necessarily different. I'd say they both have like subcultures of, you have like a, and there's some overlap there too, clearly. But yeah,
okay.
I do want to, real quick before we move on to Team League, I want to go back to something you said, David, about the iterations. I think the natural conclusion there, at least with respect to Legion, is simply that there might be like a solution out there. It might be that Empire players should just be playing Vader or whatever, and we just haven't figured it out yet. Or maybe not. I don't know. But the point is that it takes much longer for the game of Legion to reach that sort of realization point than other other miniatures games. But also, even if you look at like video games and stuff, those are way more iterative.
Right.
So people figure out, the things that are strong much more quickly than in a miniatures game like Legion.
Like, I'm just going to I'm not a mathematician. You are, in a way. I'm just going to take a wild guess and say that the number of iterations of Legion versus the number of iterations of video game in the time span of, let's say, a week is like not even close.
It's
like
orders of magnitude.
Orders of magnitude. Yeah, exactly. It's like it's several. It's because if you play, like, let's say you play Smash Brothers for a week, right? You can knock out like hundreds of games of Smash Brothers in a week. You can knock out, maybe if you're lucky, 2 to 3 games of Legion in a week.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just accounting for the individual playtime and not the player base too, where you have, like literally millions of people playing some video game, and you have maybe a few thousand people playing Legion.
Right. Playing Legion, and no one plays it for almost no one plays it for the sake of cracking the code. Almost everybody plays it for the sake of having fun and recreating Star Wars on their tables.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I like that we currently have a Wild West.
Me too.
I'm not convinced necessarily that means that everything is like super well balanced after the update.
Yeah.
It's possible that like there's just a different set of units that everybody should be playing. And we just haven't figured out what that is yet.
It's called Shadow Collective. They haven't released yet.
Yeah. Well, I wonder too. I think, listen, the pandemic was awful, but I think the best thing that came out of it was the suspension of OP. And here's why I say this, because it's given the community an opportunity to be inventive, because they're not forced to be like, okay, I got to pick what I know is going to be the best units, the best this at this time, so that I can win that prize or whatever it is, right? Like, even though the tournaments are important and people are trying to win them, it's not like anything's on the line officially. So I think it's giving us this opportunity to really explore this game. And I think we're going to look back at this in maybe 5 years and go, you know what, this was like the renaissance for this game, like this non-OP era where we could really explore the game and go, oh my God, like, would we have ever figured out the Yoda Padme saber thing, right? If we didn't have, because those don't make any sense on paper, if we didn't have this kind of renaissance of not having to do OP. So I don't know.
Right. Like, when I first saw the list, I was like, how?
Yeah, right.
That was literally my reaction. Cause like, here I am sitting over here in America, and we're all like, oh, 13 activation staps, baby. Nothing can defeat it, and we're over here, we're sitting over here. It's like, how does an 8 activation list find success? Well, the answer, we now know the answer.
Yeah.
We know the answer.
Yep.
Anywho.
Well, I can segue from here into Team League because we also, in the name of innovation, in the name of trying new things, Team League has a ban system.
Ooh.
And our ban system is meant to do that because there's two extremes, right? There is, can I make a list with only one unit, and then there's, can I make a list without certain units? And we try to make it in Team League that you get 4 units that can be banned between 2 teams of players. And some of the most interesting data that I find is like what units get banned the most is a lovely statistic that I have every
So each team
season.
gets 2 bans basically.
Yeah, and so the way that we do it is you flip for red and blue, and then blue bans first and fourth, red bans second and third. Is how we do it. So it goes blue, red, blue. And
then neither team can play the units that they ban.
Exactly. Okay. That's how we do it. And so like you always have the very interesting results because it sort of tells you the perception of what is the strongest unit at this current time and what do people not want to play against? What do people think is bad or bad for the game because it's too strong?
Or at least unpleasant to play.
Or at least unpleasant to play against, exactly. Yep. And so one of the coolest trends is that back in season 5, nobody banned Padme. She was never chosen to be banned. Now in season 6, I've got 3 Padme bans already. So I got 3 Padme bans. Oh. I got Dwarf Spider Droids banned 5 times. I got Wookiee warriors getting banned repeatedly. Yeah, I got all that stuff. And here's another thing too. No one was banning Darth Vader operative. Yeah. Now, guess what's being banned now? Darth Vader operative. Yeah. So it's sort of like, you know, these kind of the behind the scenes data is always a joy for me. Just because I love seeing what people are afraid of and what people think is strong without those units in play. And like, you know, sometimes people will they even like scout the opposing team and they're like, you know, what did this guy on this team play? Okay, we know he likes that unit. Let's keep him from playing that one.
Yeah.
You know, let's make him play something that he's not comfortable with. You know, it's kind of an interesting, and it's good because it like for that player, it's going to kick them out of their comfort zone a little bit and get them to experiment with units they may not otherwise, you know, have exposure to. And with TTS, you don't necessarily have to own anything to play it. Which, you know, is both, that's got its pitfalls, but at the same time, it's like, you know, maybe someone gets inspired to play a unit they don't normally play and they're like, okay, well, great, I'm going to shift to this. And, you know, if I want to play it on a real table, if I think it's got some legs, he goes, Anakin, there you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go
play that 2 extra
one.
Factions based on basically like playing something in Invader. So Empire and Republic.
There was also like an interesting debate, you know, do we ban Yoda or do we ban Padme? Like, who's the greater threat here? Is who's the alpha of this combination that we have to protect ourselves against? Another thing too, the AA5 went from like most banned to least banned. It's like only got 1 ban now. The AA5 is not perceived to be as much of a threat because it's like there's this perception like, oh, it got nerfed. But it could be still like really strong, like you said, Jay, because it's all like perception wise, you know.
Yeah.
But this is just the sort of thing that we do in Team League. It's just, you know, it's very house ruley, which is fine, you know. But it's kind of a more laid back. It's more fun. It's got some nice prizes, you know. And I'm hoping you get back to streaming more of these games because I like to see, you know, what people do when they have to innovate around a restriction. And that's really what I want. Is I want people to innovate, and the game needs that, because if you just wait for someone to tell you what the best list is and then copy that list, it's all bad. I just don't like that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you're right. You're playing into the whole, like this whole Wild West that we're in and helping support that. And not only just for the players, but for the game in general, right? Because we can see some cool combos if something's banned. And, you know, like if somebody banned ATSTs on me, then I'd have to figure out what the heck I'm going to play.
Right. Like last season, we figured out that triple, like pre-nerf, triple arcs with jetpacks was actually really good.
Yeah.
Like, and just, but no one would have played it except, we have a map where, and this is another thing too, the maps in advance. So we had a map in that season, which was almost all like height 2 buildings. And so everybody was like, oh my God, Mandalorians versus ARC Troopers. That's a really cool matchup.
Yeah.
They got to use all their jumpy stuff. So that's our stock and trade, Yavin Base Team League. That's what we do.
You want to talk just generally about, the timeline of the league, the format, how people can follow it, etc.
So the way it works is there's 2 leagues. There's an open league called the Hero League where we get the bulk of the teams. So we got 20 this season who are playing. It's about 100. It's 100 people because it's a 5-player team plus an alternate plus maybe a coach. So it's a little bit more than 100, but they play in it. And the timeline right now is we're currently in the first round of play. That ends on the 19th. We take a break for holidays. So whatever you observe during December 20th through the 26th, so we take a break there. And then we come back after that for the second and third round. And this is everybody is divided into groups of 4, and they play Swiss with each other. And then after that, there's an elimination round where the top 2 teams from each group are then seeded into a bracket. There's a 4-round bracket here because it's top 10. So there's going to be 2 play-in games. And then after that, what happens is the winner of that single elimination phase, it becomes the champion of the Hero League, but then they get promoted to the 2nd division, which is called Champion Circle. And Champion Circle is reserved for those teams that have like proven themselves over the course of seasons. And so like we have a whole like rank point system where we evaluate teams based on their finishes in prior seasons. And one team from Colorado, the 5280 Legion, is our current number 1 rank point holder. And so unless they got demoted from Champion Circle, which if you end in the bottom 4 of the Champ Circle, you get relegated back down to the open division. So there's a whole like promotion relegation system in the team league as well. So the way you follow it basically is if you join the Legion Discord, people are posting like when their games are that they want to stream or want people to stream. And so usually one of those gets picked up by a streamer who's got some spare time to pick it up, and they'll broadcast it basically. And that's kind of how we follow it. And we also publish the results of every week on Challenge. And I'm going to try to do some sort of update where I tell everybody who won and who lost, and what some interesting lists were. Maybe because what I want to do is I want to make sure the list data gets published, because if it doesn't get published, people start to be a little bit skittish about getting streamed because they have that advantage of secret information.
Yeah,
and they want to make sure that I want to make sure the lists get published this season so people don't have that advantage. But yeah, that's a really long way of saying you can follow us on twitch.tv/YavinBase, and please join the Legion Discord and pay attention to the Looking for Streamer channel, because that's generally where all these games are.
Yeah, I would say it's for those of you that maybe have been thinking about dipping your toes into Invader League or some online tournament, if you can get some team members together. I think it's too late this season,
for
the next season, this is a great way, because it's David, I don't know if you describe it this way, but like it's a very beer and pretzels league for me, where it's like you don't feel as pressured to like do stuff because you have a whole team you can rely on as well. It's not just about you and you winning and losing.
Right. It's all right. And that's a great point, Jay. It's about community too, because people develop deeper friendships over the game. People develop, they feel a real bond with each other. And like you say, Jay, if you lose your game, you've got your team to fall back on. If you win your game and then your team wins the whole thing, if they win the best of 5, then you're like, yeah, man, I really contributed because my point counted. Yeah. So you get the best of both worlds in that sense. And losses don't feel so bad. If you win, you still feel like you contributed.
Yep.
So there's a lot of upside to the team format. I think that's really one of the reasons I started it, was because no one had put together a team-based thing, and team-based things for Legion aren't really part of what we do in the United States that much. There's a few team championships, like mostly for Warhammer, and for like there's this thing called the America Team Championship. But mostly what I saw was the Europeans doing it, and I'm like, man, Europeans have some really smart ideas going on, and especially in Spain, they do it really well. And maybe Kyle, you can talk about the Holocron circuit, because I saw you were discussing it with someone earlier today. They have a huge tournament circuit out there in Spain. Like, it's just absolutely massive. And so I see that, and I get inspired to create tournaments of my own.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's really impressive, this circuit that they have in Spain. I basically remarked that Spain is, secretly training up this top-notch competitive community to come kick all our butts once we actually have a Worlds.
I mean, hundreds of players.
Yeah.
In real-world events. Yeah.
Yep.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
They put some of our events to shame.
And like multiple tournaments every weekend. They posted some data, and we're like, yeah, this is data since mid-September, and this is 39 tournaments. And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, it's 39 tournaments since mid-September.
Yeah, in 3 months, 39 tournaments.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a tournament every 3 days on it, or like every 2.5 days on average, or something like that.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That's a lot of tournaments. Yeah, so props to Spain.
Yeah, seriously though.
But yeah, you're right. The team format is something I think that's kind of missing from Legion, excluding Team League. That I think is like super interesting, and it'd be great if there was I'd love for there to be eventually some kind of like real life Legion event that's like,
I'll just mention this because I had a great time at Dallas Open. The Dallas people are experimenting with that idea. I need to ask Bruce what happened with it, but they were talking about doing IRL teams of 3.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so not as not best of 5, but just best of 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like 1 or 2 things that are taking shape, and then of course American Team Championship I already mentioned. They do that. I don't know the dates or anything like that, but I know you can Google them, and they have their own website you can look at. But yeah, that's Team League in a nutshell.
Awesome.
Nice.
It's fun, and it's just a lot of joy to make it all work,
Yeah, I regret that I cannot participate this time. As I've already said this on the cast previously, but
yeah,
it's actually, I'm a little bit surprised that I'm here tonight.
Me too.
Probably will not be here next week.
Yeah,
because I'll have an infant in my house.
Yay!
Not a new experience for me. This is number 3, but
still. It's a joy.
Each one's an experience.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yes. Well, and yes, very exciting. But it's not, as far as like you kind of know what you're doing this time around.
Yeah.
So it's like
you think until this one does something completely new, and you're like, what in the hell?
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too. Like my wife and I were talking the other day. Like your first kid, it's like, oh, do you have the car seat in the car? You got your hospital bags packed, like you're ready to go, and like. I don't have an infant car seat in the car at the moment. Like it's sitting upstairs.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, I'll get it eventually. It's
perfect, right? The first one, you're like, oh God, don't break it. Oh my God, what if it falls? Like by the time you get to your 3rd or 4th, you're like, I just don't care. Like it'll be fine. Everything will be fine. I just need to do something else.
I know the feeling of the first one, because I'm in the process of raising my first child, and every time he bonks his head, I'm just like, even though he bonks
oh my God, are you okay?
Yeah, even though he bonks it like 5 to 10 times a day.
Yeah. By the time you get to 2 or 3, it's like, you're fine. Let's go.
Yeah, you're fine. You're okay. You're okay. You're just a little shocked.
Yeah. Move on. Come on, let's speed this up.
It's like you have a skull for a reason.
But to that end, I just want everybody to know, if you're still here at the end of the cast, I will be probably next week and maybe the following week, I'll be rotating with some other host until Kyle comes back and feels like he's ready. He's going to take a little leave, well deserved, and go take care of his family, and then we'll substitute in as needed, Kyle. And somebody, actually, I'll say this: somebody wrote a comment somewhere and said, "Jay, what you need to do is while Kyle's gone, become hyper competitive at Legion, and then when he gets back, he won't know what to do." I was like, I don't think that's enough time, but we'll see. We'll see.
Just throw a training montage together.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was like
just lifting the toys.
Yeah, handfuls of dice.
Yeah.
Handfuls of dice running up the steps of the front of your house.
Me just looking at different angles on the
Maybe
table.
maybe like shaking some paint or something. You know.
Yeah, painting miniatures in your basement.
Yeah.
Or wherever you paint miniatures.
Perfect. But yeah, cool. Well, David, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure,
great.
man. I was happy to do it. I'm still happy. I didn't mean to make it sound like
I was happy.
I was.
Yeah.
I am happy to do it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And so you can follow Team League on Yavin Base if you want.
Yes, Yavin Base, or twitch.tv/Yavin Base.
Yep.
There you go.
Give us a follow.
And good luck to everyone playing in that. Good luck to the 2 finalists in Invader League. And that'll again be this Saturday. What time is that again, David?
That is Saturday, December 18th, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Awesome.
Nice. That's a good time.
Yep.
Yep.
That is a good time. I might actually be able to watch that. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Jay.
I'm David.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.